Hey everybody, Paul Vaillancourt here with another What Were You Thinking video. My guest today is Chris Alvarado. This was such a fun episode. He is an absolute delight. He did this ding ding improv tip and stuck around to do this What Were You Thinking video afterwards. It was really great. The scene was fun. The talk afterwards was fun. He really knows this stuff, and there's huge chunks of time where I was just sitting and listening, just taking it all in. I thought he had some really great, insightful things to say. We talk about the start of scenes. We talk about playing with a lot of detail. We talk about sort of something I don't ordinarily think about, like where does this scene fit in a bigger sort of piece. I thought that was a really interesting part of the conversation I think you guys will like. So at this point, I would like to thank you guys for watching. I'd like to thank Chris Alvarado for coming by and doing all this stuff. And right now, please sit back, relax, and enjoy me and Chris Alvarado.
Hi, our suggestion is theory. Great, we go.
I'm not feeling it. That's weird. Usually you're so decisive in your work. To see you question yourself makes me very worried.
Frankly, it's being here with you, Professor.
Me?
Alone, I feel strong and confident, and then when you're in the room, well, you're so great, smart. I question my
Prizes, whether they be Nobel or Pulitzer or scientific awards, they don't matter. Science is science.
Yes, science is science. I can find answers, formulas.
Yes.
But the one answer I can't find is, how is it that, you can write it out, your power and presence
Yes, of course.
makes me weak?
Weak. I had a tremor. Are you going to cry?
I don't feel strong around you. You're better than me. You're better than everyone here at this university, Professor.
And yet I'm here. We are here together in this room, aren't we?
It doesn't feel like we're together.
It doesn't.
Yes, literally, we are here in the same space.
That's true.
I understand that formula.
Yes.
But
you feel like I'm above you, looking down, like Zeus on high, judging your work as you do.
well, I heard you snicker. I heard you snicker as I was putting together this
I
formula.
love science, and I thought you were doing a science joke.
But at one point you went, yeah, right.
I thought it was a joke.
It's not a joke. This is my life's work.
That's your life's work?
Yes.
Thomas, you've got to reassess your life. If that's your life's work, you've really got to... Maybe a family. Maybe that's more your speed. A family...
No. It's science. I've given up everything. I've taken a vow of celibacy. I don't even talk to another person because this is all I have. But then next to you, it feels like it's not much.
I've taken a vow of celibacy as well.
Really?
Yes. I have very little human interaction, the bare minimum, actually. And now, I see you. I see me in you. I see you as a reflection, a tiny little reflection of me.
But it's there.
It's there. I had a professor, the same juxtaposition as you and I, someone who I revered.
That can't be.
Yes, it's true.
Somebody knew more than you.
Professor Higgins, do you remember him?
The Professor Higgins?
Yes, the whole wing named after.
Yes,
the Higgins wing.
Yes, the Higgins wing.
Yes, he was my mentor.
But and correct me if I'm wrong, I heard you beat him.
I did. That was the only way I could seize my power. Was to break him. And to beat him in front of the entire scientific community. So they would know that I, Professor Halstead, was the dominant scientist.
I was going to resort to violence.
Yes.
The only way I can beat you is perhaps physically, but certainly not mentally.
Well then, the game's afoot, eh? I'll see you unless you see me first.
I gotta work on
If you see me first, then you'll probably kill me. Ah, then I won't see you. I won't see you coming.
that. Once again, you know more than I do.
Right. You should also know I carry a gun.
You should also know I wear a bulletproof vest everywhere I go. Yes! This makes much more sense now, Professor!
Yes, it does. I'll see you around campus.
Not if I see you first.
Watch your back. See you.
All right, everybody, so we did our scene, and now we're going to go back and sort of run through it and sort of talk about what we were thinking, our thought process, as per the name of the video. Here we go.
Our suggestion is theory.
The suggestion is theory.
Here we go.
Great. So right at the beginning, let's just start this. So you start by writing on the whiteboard,
right?
Seems
That's
like, right. So that's how you take the cap off. So is that something you usually do? Do you usually go to environment early on?
I like a physicality environment or posture-wise. I take the suggestion, kind of A to C that idea. You know, theory makes me think of this, makes me think of this, and I feel like I don't really have a lot of smart things to say in my life in general. So environment is always a nice place for me to go because I can start figuring out who it is I am based on.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, for me, that was really a great. Well, I think we were sort of on the same sort of page of what the suggestion meant. I thought scientist too, of some sort. I was thinking chemistry, but you sort of started like more theoretical on the board. But I do this too, as I a lot of times will go to the physicality first, just to sort of ground it somewhere.
Yeah,
and I also feel like it gives you like tools and toys and props to use to sort of show your character.
I love that.
You don't have to say it.
I love
show
that.
it.
Exactly.
Great. So we have this. Very nice.
I'm not feeling it. It's weird. It's weird. Usually you're so decisive in your work. To see you question yourself makes me...
Right, so you say you're not feeling it. So when I saw you originally writing, you were writing so quickly and so, I thought, oh, he's so decisive, but then you came out with something different. So rather than abandoning sort of what I had said earlier, I just sort of like put those two things together. So my next gift to you.
And which was so nice, because that was literally me, Chris, the improviser, going like, I don't really, this was my choice. I'm starting to flail as to like what am I going to do with this? Am I going to be the smartest scientist around? I questioned myself. So when I said that and I looked to you, you kind of had this higher status look, and then I was like, that's where I'm going.
Great.
I'm going to be indecisive isn't a strong way to play, obviously, but I'm going to doubt my own expertise in this field.
Right. And I think sort of that little bit there that you're talking about is something I talk about a lot in my classes, which is called reading your partner. Like you may not have an exact idea, but you look at your partner, you get a vibe off of them, and you sort of say that vibe out loud.
That's
right.
And
then suddenly you're there. Because it's kind of organic to what's happening. It reads all the way through because the audience is seeing what you're seeing and you're sort of interpreting what's really happening.
Absolutely.
And you're feeling, and here we go.
Frankly, it's being here with you, Professor. Me. Alone, I feel strong and confident, and then when you're in the room, well, you're so great, smart. I question my thing.
Great, and I love this choice that you made of like oh, it's you, Professor. I think this idea of like it's you is pivotal because it takes it from here to here, this is really what it is, right? That's what you were thinking.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and like I know you're great, so I'm going to lob you this softball, and you were probably already feeling maybe that higher status anyway. Now I want to solidify that like. When I'm around you, I'm not as great. Therefore, you are better.
Yeah, that's great. And it's just simple, just like sort of us, sort of like building like one brick on top of
That's
another,
exactly right. Yeah.
You said that, and then you gave me that great gift. You're so great. That's such a great gift to give to your partner. You sort of talked about this in your improv tip a little bit, which I will post. You'll see that. And so you're sort of actually playing by that rule. That's really great. And then here we go.
Prizes, whether they be Nobel or Pulitzer or scientific awards of any, they don't matter. Science is science.
Yes, science is science.
Right, so at that point, once I know that I'm better, I'm sort of like adding just like a little exposition, like blah 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 blah.
I love it. Yeah, and that's what I'm looking for too.
Yeah,
I want to make. I'm like, great. He knows it. He's got it. He's going to give me even examples as to like how and why he is the greatest.
Yeah, and that's sort of like just filling that moment out.
I can find answers, formulas, but the one answer I can't find is how is it that right now your power and presence makes me weak.
Great. So I love this because this sort of is like, I feel like characters a lot of times have a refrain that is an action or a saying or sort of something they keep coming back to. And this writing on the whiteboard is sort of your refrain.
It feels very comfortable to go back to that too.
Yeah. And it's sort of like this is I always tell my students that like the relationship is the transaction and the action is like the currency. Right, so we're using this science as a currency to sort of find out what's the power dynamic.
I love that. And frankly, you'll notice, I mean, I like literally spelled out, in my opinion, what's going on here, how I feel.
For sure.
That your presence makes me weak.
Right.
Done. And so for the rest of the show, and 19 minutes into a 23-minute show, as soon as you walk into that moment, I'm going to feel less than.
Great, and we see that can play out like if you're giving a speech or about to accept an award.
Exactly.
And he walks into the room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's great. It's super clear how to play that, and I think it's great for us to know how to play that. But then also, you spelled out in such a super clear way that now the ensemble can help play that. They can set up situations where that can play even more.
And I think that's so important, right? Like making sure that the house and the ensemble knows what's up. Right, and so now everyone goes, got it.
Totally.
We know how to play this.
I 100% believe in that. Right, and so then I see you sort of thinking, I'm like, I'm gonna sort of amp this up a little bit. I'm gonna push this thing forward a little bit, and are you gonna cry? And then you sort of like kind of take that. Of course, as an improviser, you just take it and you roll with it. It's
absolutely.
So cool. What were you thinking when I said that?
When you said it, I was very happy because you were just, if there was a little spark of my character, that gift to me is a little bit of fuel on that to go like, okay, great. Like I'm going to embrace this weakness so much so that now I'm crying. It was just a gift, and I loved having that gift to like really lock in my thing. Like I'm so weak, I'm gonna cry now. It was just
great.
Nice.
And this is sort of something people talk about. What do you feel like is the difference between a gift and a pimp? Because they kind of are very similar, right? But they have different results or outcomes.
Sure. I mean, to me, the pimp is usually not for the sake of the scene necessarily, but for the sake of the players trying to like have fun with each other in there. But I mean, fun might be still too positive a way to put it. A pimp to me is just like putting somebody on blast, if you will, and going like, I'm going to endow you with something that's a little silly and dumb because I think this will be fun. Rather than a gift going, this is not only going to serve you, but it's going to serve the scene and our relationship. Yeah.
That's really great. There's an improv tip about pimping versus gifting, and I'll link that as well up there.
Terrific.
Here we go.
I feel strong around you. You're better than me. You're better than everyone here at this university, Professor.
And yet I'm here. We are here together in this room, aren't we?
It doesn't feel like we're together.
It doesn't.
Yes, literally. We are here in the same space.
That's true.
I understand that formula.
Yes.
But
you feel like I'm above, looking down, like Zeus on high, judging your work.
Right. So I think this is an interesting little piece of the scene.
Yes, me
Go
too.
ahead.
Well, it's funny because I was playing with two different brains in there. I was trying to be somebody who was formulaic and mathematical, but then but then this emotion was coming in, and so it was kind of hard for me to articulate that, like using this sadness and this feeling of being weak while also being somebody who operates with like a mathematical brain.
Right.
So so I just gave you that pause, which by the way, I love a pause. I love a pause in the scene. I feel like people are very afraid of those pauses.
I agree.
I love it. And so when you filled that in for me, I was like, thank you.
I think it's interesting in the scene because you're sort of talking about feeling weak and stuff, and there's like this little moment where it's like, I'm sort of trying to kind of like a high status person, kind of make you feel better, but kind of like still reinforce my own power. Like, what? We're still here. Like, you know how people do that? They're like, oh, come on, it's just, we're just two folks. Like, oh, right, Michael Douglas, we're just two guys. Right?
That's right.
But I think that's I'm sort of playing my game sort of into the relationship a little bit. But then there's like that little moment. I think there's like where it just lulls for a second. There's that little pause where and I think that's like a crossroads. Like, do you accept that and say, oh, okay, or do you sort of lean into that? And I think we sort of found this. I sort of just basically doubled down on my gift
for sure, which was exactly what I needed, frankly.
Oh, great. Yeah, great. Yeah, I just thought, I'll just do an example, or sort of like I'll sort of double down on what the gift I was.
Absolutely.
Here we go.
As you do.
I heard you snicker. I heard you snicker as I was putting together this.
I love science, and I thought you were doing a science joke.
But I won't point you in.
Yeah, right. I thought it was a joke.
It's not a joke. This is my life's work.
That's your life's work.
Great. So I like this little part where you're the laugh is introduced. This
Yes,
little thing.
yes.
And we sort of like work out this little idea.
That's exactly right.
What does the laugh mean, and how much laughing is there, and this kind of thing. And I think that's such a great. I mean, I can sort of see. For me, I didn't know what it meant necessarily, and I was like, what? And I thought it was a joke, whatever. But then we sort of like amp, and then you say this really definitive thing of like, this is my life's work.
Right.
I think that's so important to the scene, because then now it's like, oh. Now, again, back to the refrain or back to the currency, that written up there is something, and then we sort of like now talk about that.
Yes, sure. By the way, me telling you that you were snickering and then even said, yeah, right, came from the idea that like I wanted to make sure that you knew that you were not only better than me, of course, but like even kind of looked down on me a little bit. But then I loved your justification of those laughs, because you could have just been like, yeah, this is a joke, you're dumb. But instead, like, you're such a dynamic player that you were able to like use that and filter it through your point of view, which was going like, I thought it was a joke. I like the idea that you didn't use that moment to like slam me, but to just build you up as somebody who's playing to the height of their intelligence.
Yeah, I think that's sort of one of the things that I learned early on about status, that there's an improv tip about, I'll link it up there, about status, is there's basically 4 status moves. I can raise myself, or lower myself, or raise my partner, or lower my partner. So once that information comes in, I thought rather than lower you, I'll raise myself even more.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right?
That was so nice.
Right, and that's sort of just, it's sort of, you know, I always feel like, and I'm sure you do too, that by the time the scene's over, that's when you have the most clear understanding of what it's all about, right?
Of course.
That's it. That's the most crystal clear. And so far, we'd already sort of talked about the Zeus on high thing or whatever, and so I feel like, oh, okay, we're there, so I'm just kind of like going to continue down that kind of road.
Absolutely.
And this sort of like, I thought it was a joke sort of thing.
Yeah,
I
love that.
And then, but I love this idea that you said about, this is my life's work. How did you come up with that? Or what were you thinking when you said, this is my life's work?
Because I knew it needed to mean more.
Yeah.
I knew that it couldn't just, because I think it was you seeing it as a joke made me make that choice.
Yeah.
If you said, well, this is some of the best work I've ever seen, I might have even said, I could do better. But when you said that it was almost laughable, then I needed to let you know that the stakes are high here, that this is all I've ever worked on.
Yeah, I thought that was great, because that really, I think when people use the environment or use some things that's outside of the two of us, using that, you have to imbue that with certain meaning, or else it's kind of hollow or true to a mime show, or
exactly
the focus is off.
No, exactly.
But that's it. Like, this thing now means something about the two of us, and here we are moving forward.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thomas, you've got to reassess your life. If that's your life's work, you've really got to. Maybe a family. Maybe that's more your speed. A family.
No. Oh, I love that idea. I love the idea of saying maybe this isn't your thing.
Right, because you said, oh, this is my life's work, and I'm just sort of doubling down on my thing. But now I'm taking just basically sort of what we were talking about a second ago. I'm now taking a different tack. Rather than lowering myself, rather than raising myself, I'm lowering you.
Yeah.
A different status.
Yes.
Move.
Yes. But again, though, because you're frankly just so good at it,
Go on. This is ridiculous.
It didn't feel like an attack. It felt like something that this guy might actually think.
Right. I sort of got down this road. Sorry, I got down this road a little bit of like, he's sort of like self-effacingly like a jerk or powerful, whatever.
Yes.
He's like, I'm trying to help, but look, we're in the same room. But it's like disingenuous to a certain degree. But it's like, it's kind of helping, but not really.
Yeah, but see, I don't know that it's not necessarily disingenuous. Okay. And if I may, because I feel like if you stop this, if somebody entered this scene and they said, Professor, we need to ask you a couple questions about this pupil of yours, I think that you wouldn't say he's terrible. I think you might say maybe he's a family man. Like that you believe that, and which is
that's interesting. Yeah, I think that's interesting. Yeah, that's sort of his point of view. I think you're right, because I think that would be, it's hard to say sort of on the fly.
Of course,
but I think that's probably true, because it's like, oh well, it's not for everyone. It's sort of like,
I love that though. But you might actually believe that,
right? For sure.
I think you're at the top of the game.
Exactly. I think that's his superiority. Is like, well, it's science. It's not for everyone.
That's right. That's right. I love that. No. It's science. I've given up everything. I've taken a vow of celibacy. I don't want to even talk to another person, because this is all I have. But then next to you, it feels like it's not much.
I took a vow of celibacy as well.
Really?
Yes. I have very little human interaction. The bare minimum, actually. And now, I see you. I see me in you. I see you as a reflection. A tiny little reflection.
But it's there.
It's there.
Can we pause for a second?
Yeah, of course.
I love this. I love that you said you also took that vow of celibacy, because again, it would be very easy for you just to play one note, one dimension, high status jerk. And instead, it's like, Brian O'Connell talks about this a lot. I know he's done a tape here before. It's that hit, back away, hit idea of like, you laughed at my joke, you're saying maybe I should be a family man. It's two kind of hits, but then this back away moment is you connecting with me, saying, I've also done this.
Yeah,
I love that one.
At that point, I'm thinking about sort of like getting back into the relationship.
Yes.
You know, so like sort of putting a little more juice into that.
Yes,
so
I love
if
that.
we have something in common, or I reflect something about you, that sort of draws us closer together, or
I
gets
love
us
that.
deeper into this idea. Right?
I love that.
And then kind of what happens next. And like I see a reflection of me and you. Oh, that's interesting. Where does that go? You know
I think that's great, and it doesn't polarize us. It on the contrary, it kind of brings us a little closer for a moment at least.
That's a great observation, I think, because a lot of times when people get into scenes that are contentious, I tell my students all the time, there's two kinds of fights that we have. One is a fight to win, and one is a fight to improve things, right? And I feel like this is kind of that. Like, we're sort of trying to work. I'm not trying to beat you.
No.
It's like we're trying to sort of like, we have this like friction that's trying to work out kind of what's our relationship.
Exactly.
And so me having something in common with you, or us sort of like getting together on this idea of celibacy and like putting everything else to the side just for science. Oh, we're not so different. So we're also another thing that happens in friction scenes is that it's like, well, why does one person not say peace and like leave the scene, right?
Exactly.
And this is why.
That's exactly right. Because that's exactly right. And in the scene, I'm also asking myself, why is he sticking around? Like, why don't you just leave? Why don't you say, you're terrible, you're gone? And when you inject this humanity into it, it gives you a reason to stay. And it makes me, it really, as the improviser playing with you, I felt that like, you know what, this isn't necessarily a battle at this point.
Yes.
Things change.
Foreshadowing.
I had a professor, same juxtaposition as you and I, someone who I revered.
That can't be.
Yes, it's true.
Somebody knew more than you.
Professor Higgins, do you remember him?
The Professor Higgins?
Yes, the whole wing named after.
Yes,
the Higgins wing.
Yes, the Higgins wing.
Yes, he was my mentor. But
Right, so now we're just doubling down on this idea that we're not so different.
That's right.
I've been where you
That's
are.
right. That's right. And so I couldn't let that go on for too long, right? I'm about to like add this extra information, because though it's sweet and I love it in here, I still want to set you up for the hit. And that might sound weird, but like, and you do it on your own, but like we had this moment, hey, and then I'm waiting for you to go, and boom. Right. So that's why. So it's like there was somebody in your life who was better than you for a moment, who taught you these things. You relate to me, except for the part that I'm not going to be able to beat you with my mind, and you were able to beat Higgins with your mind. So that does make you still better. I don't know. For some reason, I just still needed you to. I wanted to make sure that we knew that you were still better.
Right, and I think sort of part of that is, I think you don't. In general, I think you don't want this scene to totally work out.
Right.
We don't want it to sort of those two chemicals to interact and come to a stasis. We want to keep it we want to sort of work, but leave the scene with some meat on the bone, leave some dynamic to come back to.
Absolutely,
later, right?
Absolutely.
If I'm wrong,
I heard you beat him.
I did. That was the only way I could seize my power. To break him. And to beat him in front of the entire scientific community, so they would know that I, Professor Halstead, was the dominant scientist.
Great, I love this bit. So, like, I'm sort of like turning out doing my sort of like monologue,
That's right.
whatever. But I feel like there's something I talk about in my class of like history and philosophy. Sometimes there's a moment in a scene where your character gets to do like a little bit of their history or philosophy, and that's kind of what this is. And I love that sort of rather than just you could just stay alive and take it all in, but then you start to be influenced by that, which I rather like.
Well, because what I like here is that I think I revere you, and I think that you know more. And so I listened to what you're saying, and I thought you were giving me, the character took it as you were giving me the roadmap to success, which is, in order for you to be as great as you were, you had to beat your professor.
Yeah.
Well, I can't do that mentally, so I'm going to resort to violence.
Yeah. That's great. But I love that it's sort of a replication of a pattern that we haven't even seen. Because this little bit here with Professor Higgins is interesting because when we go to the second beat or a callback or something, we could go back in time and see a similar mirror
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was going to resort to violence. The only way I can beat you is perhaps physically, but...
Right, and this is just like that. I really believe in like that hardcore, double down, unlikely yes.
Unlikely, yes.
Because usually you're going to be like, what? No, stop that. Put that down. Don't
Yes,
do that.
yes,
I want to
yes.
preserve myself. But as an improviser, I need to go a little bit higher and say, what's going to benefit the scene the most? And that's for me to yes.
Yeah.
Yes. This.
Yeah.
You know, it's a technique we call yes in spite. A tip about that, I'll link it in the thing.
Which, by the way, is a great tip. I love it.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Very much. I feel like it pushes past reason or logic into sort of like scene logic. It's slightly different physics, but it really helps the scene.
I love it. I love it.
Great. So now we're sort of doubling down. Yes, you've got to do this. You've got to whatever. And now I think that energizes not only this scene, but future scenes that could happen.
Agreed.
Okay?
Certainly not mentally.
Well then, the game's afoot.
So I guess my question is like, what are you thinking when I say yes to this and I say yes, you have to do this. Yes, the game's afoot. What are you thinking at that moment?
I feel like no matter what, I'm not going to be able to overcome you, and that's annoying to say out loud here. Like because I think if I'm sticking to the idea that I think you win, you always win. Even physically, you're going to beat me. Even you saying yes to the idea of this being afoot, to me reaffirms your position in the scene. Where I go like, why weren't you afraid, or why didn't you yell at me?
I see, yeah.
Instead, you said yes. Of course, you would say yes because you are so high and mighty that like now I feel like an idiot.
Interesting. That's really interesting.
I'll see you unless you see me first. I gotta work on it. You see me first, then you'll probably kill me. Then I won't see you. I won't see you coming. But once again,
It's just like this little, again, sort of like back to that little dynamic.
It's just
I
a
know
little,
more than
yep,
you.
yep, and I had fun even playing that. Like, and there was a pause there, and I was hoping that you were going to explain it, and you did, which I think is funny. That's
thank you. You should also know. I carry guns.
You should also know I wear bulletproof vests everywhere I go.
Yes!
This makes much more sense now, Professor.
Yes, it does. I'll see you around campus.
Not if I see you first.
Watch your back.
Great, nice. So it's like a simple sort of like conclusion of like, it's what I like about the ending of the scene, which I think is really fun, is that it's the conclusion of this stanza or this chapter.
Yes.
But we sort of know, there's other chapters
For
in
sure.
the offing, should we want to visit them.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
I think it's nice when a scene sort of stands alone as a scene, but then also sort of like sets up the future
Well,
or the past.
I think about that a lot when I do my scenes, to be honest. Like how this will fit in a piece. I'm working on that myself a lot, is kind of having what I'm calling a show eye as well.
Yeah.
So the idea of like taking care of myself in a scene, great. Does my partner need some support? Great. What's happening here? But then also like I always, and I said this earlier in this video, like where would this stand 17 minutes into a 23-minute show? And like what seeds can I kind of plant?
And how much, I guess my question about that then is you know, especially beginning improvisers, they are kind of afraid or disabled by thinking.
Yes.
How much are you thinking consciously? How much is sort of just like your good habits you've developed over the years? And do you feel like those habits have made more space for you to think? Like, what's your feeling?
Yeah, I think it's more good habits, more than like literally thinking this moment here is going to pay off later in the piece. That would be kind of too much for me to think about. But I think because as I get older in this art form, and I have had the opportunity to kind of, I coach a lot, I teach a lot, I have had a little bit more presence with like looking at an entire piece. I think, like you said, that has then informed better habits. It's not just like, and we are done. No, I think I'm playing now with the idea that like things can be brought back, and I want to be so defined that when we do see this person, we know how they're going to operate anytime throughout the piece, right?
Right, and you think that's basically down to their point of view, that's the handle that people can grab them.
Always.
Yeah.
Point of view to me is synonymous with great improvisation. I mean, that's the crux of it for me, really.
Yeah.
There's so many sweet ideas, and I know from the people that you've taught that I've worked with, you're so encouraging and like lovely about that. I almost have like, I don't know if this is, I'm going to admit so much in this video, I'm kind of shying away from like the loveliness of it and getting more to like the razor sharpness of it. And so I don't let a move be wasted. Not that you do at all, but like, so I am looking
for economy?
Yeah, I think so. I think so, because here's the way I see it. A scene is this long, and I don't want to wait 2/3 of the scene to figure out what's going on.
I 1,000,000%
right?
agree.
So let's take care of that stuff here, and that comes with economy, I believe.
Right, and I think that sort of economy comes from, in a weird way, it comes from the offer and the response. Both people are responsible for that, because it's like, how do I offer and how do you respond? If I offer and you don't respond, then that's not economical, because you've wasted energy.
Exactly.
Right. And
exactly.
So like in this scene, I think this scene's a nice example. Sort of in terms of like getting to it sooner. I think you need to make those big choices, big decisions early on. Like I think when I first started improvising, I was like it was like Tai Chi. You sort of like, we'll figure it out.
Right.
And it's gonna come to
right.
us.
That's a great.
But then as we started doing it more, I felt like it was more like boxing. Like you need to make some more choices. You need to sort of try stuff out and let's see where it goes. And you're choosing and you're actively getting after what that scene's about.
I think that's brilliant. I mean, honestly, that the idea of Tai Chi versus something like boxing, I think that's the way to do it. And I'm not saying that there can't be pieces, scenes, or shows that exist in that Tai Chi form.
Sure.
Terrific. Kind of where I am in my life and in my improv career, I'm kind of not doing that right now for whatever reason. It's not right.
And I think there's some great shows that do that. I think Quartet does a great job of that. They're just sort of slow and patient. I saw Jean Vilpeak, who there's a tip from, I'll link that. She did a great bit where she was just like putting on these gloves, and it took like, I don't know, 30 seconds, which is like a gigantic fraction of the scene. But it was like riveting. I was like up in the balcony, like watching this, like, wow. I was just riveted by the detail.
But let's think about that. I don't know if we can, how long this video can be. Let's keep talking. I think that someone like Jean, who's playing with the other members of Quartet, she is allowed those moments of discovery. This could be a little bit longer because she knows she's going to be supported. No one's going to mess up. I teach a lot of beginning improvisers.
Me too.
And so I'm learning that, like, let's get to it so we can start playing it. Oftentimes, somebody who isn't as skilled as someone like Jean, they'll have that moment, which will then bleed into another, which will bleed into another, and now we have 3, 4, 5 choices to pick from, and then their scene partner doesn't know which one to play.
I agree. I call that shopping around for the game. It's like we passed this, we passed this, we passed this. I'm gonna go back to, and it's my partner's on the last thing I just did.
Right.
It's like, oh, we're a little confused.
Exactly.
We're cross purposes.
So especially with beginning improvisers, I like to let's get to it. Let's get to it. So that you say something is far more important to me than what you say. Make that choice. We'll figure it out. Throw that ball, and then we'll walk over together and pick it up. We don't need to go like, I know what I'm saying, what I'm doing right now. It's okay, you can have that moment, but let's get there.
I agree, and I think that's one of the things that separates, in my mind, beginning improvisers from more experienced improvisers is that sort of trust to either make that strong choice up at the top, which we trust that our players and our scene partners and ourselves that we can handle that. And two, sort of like to the other extreme, like once we're sort of good at that, then we can sort of start sort of like deconstructing that idea. And like Jean, like she trusts that the rest of Quartet, they trust that her.
Exactly
and that patience and that trust is what allows that thing to happen. I don't think that a Quartet style show, I'm sort of speaking from the hip here, but I don't know that that's really for level 1.
Agreed. I agree. But I think, let's get controversial, I think a lot of people are teaching that way. I think a lot of training centers throughout the country are teaching that quartet style of like organic-y, flowiness stuff, which is nice. But I think, in my opinion, for whatever it's worth, we got to sharpen those muscles, build those small muscles first. Let's get tight. Let's know how to label things and get there, so that once we build those muscles, then we can be in that position to like lay there because we're strong enough.
I 100% agree. I think the foundation is those sharp, strong choices and getting used to doing that, and then we can sort of start to fuck with it a little bit.
Exactly.
And do a slightly different style.
Exactly.
But I believe as you, and not a lot of people know this about me, but I started from short form improv, and I feel like I learned a ton from short form, and one of the things I really learned was big, bold choices. Big, bold choices. And I sometimes feel like students who come up through just long form don't get that experience.
Yes, I also started in short form, and I feel the same way. I feel like I built those muscles. So I'm going to make that choice, make that choice.
Cool. Excellent. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
So that's leave a comment down below. Say what you thought, like what really worked for you, or if you disagree with something, let us know that, and we'll try to respond. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned. More videos coming your way.
Hey friends, thanks for checking out the video, and if you want to hear a little bit more, check out one of these 2 quality videos. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe and follow us on social media. All the links are in the description down below, and let me know what you would like to see an improv tip about. Thanks for watching.